I've already transferred the beach house to Ashley, Margaret announced, her voice dripping with satisfaction as she stood in our family living room, still wearing her funeral blacks. Start packing. I looked up from the photo album in my lap, a collection of memories from summers spent at that very beach house. My name is Olivia Parker, and at 28, I was sitting in my childhood home the day after my father's funeral, listening to my stepmom of 5 years announce her latest power play. Thanks for letting me know, I replied calmly, turning another page in the album. My apparent lack of reaction seemed to irritate Margaret, whose perfectly manicured fingers tightened around her designer handbag. That's it? No argument? No tears? She pressed, her red lips curling into a sneer. Your father would be disappointed in your lack of fight. I met her gaze steadily. My father would be disappointed in a lot of things right now, Margaret. Her daughter Ashley chose that moment to breeze in, already wearing a beach cover-up as if she owned the place, which, according to Margaret, she now did. Mom, when can we start renovating? That old-fashioned decor has to go. Ashley wrinkled her nose at the coastal-themed decorations my mother had carefully collected before she passed away 10 years ago. It's all yours, sweetheart, Margaret cooed. Olivia was just hearing the news. She'll be out by the end of the week. I closed the album gently, placing it in my bag. The end of the week? That's generous of you, considering Dad's only been gone 24 hours. Margaret's smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, we need to start the renovations before summer season. Ashley has wonderful plans for the place. I'm thinking of turning it into a yoga retreat, Ashley announced, sprawling across my father's favorite armchair. All that beachfront space is wasted on just one family. I thought about the weathered deck where Dad and I had spent countless mornings fishing, the kitchen where Mom had taught me to make her famous clam chowder, the secret alcove under the stairs where I'd hidden my childhood treasures. All of it about to be transformed into a trendy retreat for Ashley's Instagram followers. The property transfer is already done, Margaret added, pulling out a folder. Signed and notarized yesterday morning before the funeral. I have power of attorney, as you know. I did know. Margaret had convinced my father to grant her power of attorney 6 months ago when his illness began to worsen. For medical decisions, she'd insisted at the time. Just in case. Would you like me to look those papers over? I asked, reaching for the folder. Given my background in real estate law. Margaret snatched the folder back. That won't be necessary. Everything's perfectly legal. Your father wanted Ashley to have the house. He told me so. I stood up, smoothing my black dress. Did he? When was this conversation? Last week, Margaret said quickly. In the hospital. Interesting. I replied, picking up my bag. Considering he was in a medically induced coma last week. Margaret's face flushed, but she recovered quickly. I meant the week before. Anyway, it's done now. We'll be heading down there this afternoon to start planning the renovations. I expect your things gone by Friday. I walked to the door, pausing only briefly. You know, Margaret, my mother always said something interesting about that house. She said it was built on stories and secrets. What's that supposed to mean? Ashley demanded, finally looking up from her phone. Nothing, I smiled. Just sharing a memory. Enjoy your yoga retreat planning. As I walked to my car, I could feel Margaret watching from the window. She probably expected me to break down, to cause a scene, to fight back immediately. She didn't know that I'd been preparing for this moment for months, ever since I'd overheard her plotting with Ashley during Dad's first hospital stay. I pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. The first to my mother's old friend, Betty, who'd been the real estate agent for the beach house for 30 years. The second to Mr. Harrison, Dad's longtime lawyer. It's time, I said simply when Mr. Harrison answered. Margaret took the bait. Already? He sounded surprised. That was faster than we expected. Did she show you the transfer papers? She waved them around but wouldn't let me see them. She claimed she used the power of attorney to transfer the property to Ashley yesterday morning before the funeral. Perfect, Mr. Harrison replied, and I could hear him shuffling papers. Absolutely perfect. Shall we proceed with phase 2? I started my car, taking one last look at Margaret and Ashley through the living room window, already measuring the space for their renovations. Yes, I said firmly. It's time they learned about Mom's secret deed. The next morning, I sat in Mr. Harrison's office, watching Margaret's face turn from smug to ghostly pale as he slid the document across his desk. This, he said calmly, is the actual deed to the beach house, filed 15 years ago by Catherine Parker, Olivia's mother. Margaret snatched the paper, her hands shaking. This is impossible. John gave me power of attorney. I have the right. Power of attorney, Mr. Harrison interrupted smoothly, does not give you the authority to sell or transfer property that wasn't in John's name to begin with. What do you mean, wasn't in his name? Ashley demanded, peering over her mother's shoulder. I leaned back in my chair, the memory washing over me. I was 13 when Mom called me into this very office, already sick but still fighting. Olivia, she'd said, sometimes we have to protect the things we love most, even from the people who should protect them for us. The beach house, Mr. Harrison continued, was transferred solely to Olivia's name when she was 13, with a trust established by her mother Catherine. John was aware of this arrangement. He merely maintained lifetime residential rights. Margaret's face contorted. That's ridiculous. John would have told me. Would he? I asked softly. Like you told him about your plans to turn it into a yoga retreat. Ashley gasped, but Margaret's eyes narrowed. You were spying on us. I was visiting my dying father in the hospital when I overheard you and Ashley planning your renovation project. 3 months before he passed away, while he was fighting for his life, you were measuring his beloved beach house for yoga mats. That's not, we weren't. Ashley stammered, but Margaret cut her off. It doesn't matter. I have papers showing the transfer. Legal documents. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses. Any transfer documents you have are void, Mrs. Parker. You attempted to transfer property that wasn't yours to transfer. In fact, he pulled out another document. Attempting to do so under power of attorney could be considered fraud. The color drained from Margaret's face. You're bluffing. Am I? I stood up, walking to the window. You know what's interesting, Margaret? My mother didn't just leave me the house. She left me her wisdom too. She warned me that someone might try to take advantage of Dad's kindness one day. That's why she set up the trust. That's why she made sure I understood property law from a young age. That's why I became a real estate attorney. Ashley slumped in her chair, her Instagram perfect posture crumbling. Mom, what did you do? Margaret's composure finally cracked. I did this for you. For us. That beach house was wasted on her. She's never even there. Because I've been caring for Dad, I said quietly. While you were planning renovations, I was driving him to chemotherapy. While Ashley was designing her yoga studio, I was organizing his medications. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. Mrs. Parker, you have 2 options. You can either sign this document acknowledging the void transfer and agreeing to vacate any claims to the property, or we can pursue legal action regarding the fraudulent transfer attempt. Margaret's hand shook as she reached for the document. This isn't fair, she whispered. No, I agreed. It wasn't fair when you rushed to transfer property the day before my father's funeral. It wasn't fair when you gave me 3 days to clear out my family's memories. Life isn't fair, Margaret. That's why we have laws. As Margaret signed the document, her signature barely legible, Ashley stood up abruptly. I'm sorry, she blurted out. I knew Mom was planning something, but I didn't know about the fraud part. I really looked at her, and saw something genuine in her expression for the first time. The beach house was never about the property value, Ashley. It's about memories. It's about family, real family. Which is exactly why it should stay in the family, Margaret interjected, finding her voice again. It is staying in the family, I replied firmly. My family, the one that built it, loved it, and protected it. Mr. Harrison collected the signed documents, making copies for everyone present. I believe our business here is concluded, he said. Mrs. Parker, Ms. Ashley, I trust you'll cancel any renovation plans you've made. As they stood to leave, Margaret turned back, her eyes cold. You think you're so clever, don't you? Just like your mother. I smiled, touching the old photo album in my bag. Thank you, Margaret. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. The following weekend, I stood on the weathered deck of the beach house, watching the sunrise paint the ocean in shades of pink and gold. The salt air carried memories of morning fishing with Dad, of Mom's laughter echoing across the waves, of a childhood spent building sandcastles and collecting seashells. Betty, our longtime family friend and real estate agent, joined me with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. Your mother would be proud, she said, handing me one. She always said you had her spirit and your father's heart. I wish Dad had seen through Margaret's act sooner. I sighed, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. He was so lonely after Mom died. He just wanted to believe in love again. John was a good man with a trusting heart, Betty nodded. But Catherine? She was a force of nature, smart as a whip, always thinking 10 steps ahead. I smiled, remembering how Mom had sat me down in this very spot, explaining why she was putting the house in my name. Sometimes she'd said, love means protecting people from their own blind spots. The screen door creaked, and Ashley stepped out tentatively. I'd been surprised to receive her text asking to meet, but something in her message felt genuine. I didn't know if he'd actually be here, she said, hovering uncertainly by the door. I come every weekend now, I replied, turning to face her. Would you like some coffee? She nodded, and Betty quietly slipped inside to get another mug, leaving us alone with the sound of crashing waves. I brought something, Ashley said, pulling a folder from her bag. Mom doesn't know I'm here, but I found these when we were packing up our things from the house. Inside the folder were photographs, dozens of them. Dad in his hospital bed, smiling despite the pain, holding my hand as I read to him. Me adjusting his pillows, bringing him meals, sitting vigil during his worst nights. The nurses took them, Ashley explained softly. They gave them to Mom, but she never showed them to me. I didn't know. I knew you visited him. But I didn't realize. Every day, I said quietly. I was there every single day. While we were shopping for yoga mats and planning beach retreats, she whispered, voice cracking. God, we were awful. I studied her face, seeing real remorse there. You were following your mother's lead. That's no excuse, she shook her head. I was so caught up in Mom's plans and the idea of having this amazing beach property. I never stopped to think about what this place really means. Betty returned with coffee for Ashley, then tactfully made herself scarce again. We stood in silence for a while, watching the waves. Can I show you something? I asked finally. Ashley nodded, and I led her to the small alcove under the stairs. Opening a hidden panel, I pulled out an old tin box. Mom's treasure chest, I explained, opening it. Inside were seashells, each labeled with dates and memories. Every shell marks a special moment. This one's from the day Dad taught me to swim. This one's from Mom's last beach walk before she got too sick. This one. I pulled out a perfectly formed sand dollar. This one's from the day they got married. Ashley touched the shells gently, reverently. I had no idea there was so much history here. That's the thing about this house, I said, replacing the box carefully. It's not just walls and windows. It's a keeper of memories. I'm sorry, Ashley said suddenly, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry we tried to take this from you. I'm sorry I didn't stop Mom. I'm sorry I didn't know Dad better. I touched her arm gently. You know, the house may be in my name, but the memories it holds belong to anyone who truly wants to cherish them. She looked at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying he'd like to know your father better, really know him. You're welcome to visit, not as a yoga instructor, but as his daughter. We could share stories, make new memories. Even after everything we did. Sometimes, I said, echoing my mother's words, love means giving people a chance to see their own blind spots. As the morning sun climbed higher, Ashley and I sat on the deck, sharing coffee and stories. She told me about her own memories of Dad, fewer but still precious. I shared more about his final months, the quiet conversations, the peaceful moments between the pain. Betty joined us later, bringing out Mom's famous clam chowder recipe and offering to teach us both how to make it. As we chopped vegetables and stirred the pot, I could almost hear Mom's laughter mixing with the sound of the waves, feel Dad's presence in the warm sea breeze. Margaret might have tried to take this place from me, but she never understood its true value. The beach house wasn't just property to be claimed or renovated. It was a sanctuary of memories, a keeper of stories, a bridge between past and future. And now, unexpectedly, it had become something else. A place of healing, of new beginnings, of second chances, just as Mom would have wanted it to be.